Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes for those keeping count. This is episode 303, and this is going to be a great episode. Basically, two marketers talking about AI, the pros, the cons. So I want to welcome Adina Zaiontz from Toronto, right?
Napkin marketing in Toronto.
Napkin marketing, and I own Anspach Media. So, you know, I use AI a lot. Adina uses AI a lot. And it's I have so many people come to me and say, "Well, Rob, isn't AI just going to replace you anyway?" No, never, never replace me. But there are fears out there. So we're going to dispel some of the fears. We're going to help you understand AI a little bit better. And so I want to welcome Adina and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Rob. I'm super excited to be here. And yeah, I've been uh, looking forward to this interview and definitely been using AI almost to the point of addiction for the past 3 months and experimenting a lot with Meta AI in particular, used ChatGPT before that, and used other tools prior to that. So I think it's a good time in history to kind of even assess what's AI good for and what's AI bad for
Well,
at this
one of the things
point.
that
Yeah.
I think are annoying when you're on Facebook and there's a little blurb underneath and AI wants to give its opinion of that post. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't care about your opinion. You know, I just care about what people think about me. Because I like to be narcissistic a little bit on Facebook. No, just kidding, everybody. Just kidding. But I do want to know that it's saying the right things about me, about my company, about marketing in particular. And a lot of times, Meta AI, that's the suggested pop-up that comes up, is way off base, and there's no way to correct it. You can say, "Hey, this is the real thing," and then it goes in, it gives you some platitudes. It's, "Oh yeah, we'll correct that," and never does.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's one thing about AI that I found is it's scary good, right? And it's the amount it's very intelligent technology. And when I started using it, I did a quick search and what do you know about Adina Zaiontz? And it pulled up reams of stuff that's probably compilation of different information I about me already existing on the on the internet.
Mhm.
But even things like how many children I have, the name of my ex-husband, um,
Oh, strike
my
that out
my
of there.
my
Yeah. Mhm.
religion, how things I said about something I think I like this is the scary part. I did a podcast interview which is out there on the internet. It was probably 13, 14 years ago when I was just starting my agency. So I did an interview that it exists out there probably only in audio format. But it was pulling things out of that interview that I had said at the time that Adina runs after her two small children and da 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 da. Da. I'm like, wow, it could only have come from that original interview. So it's like basically the AIs that are existing now, especially I think the one that we were going to talk about with the Meta AI
Mhm.
from Facebook and WhatsApp. They're drawing on the internet. They're drawing on that's the database of content that it's all formulated on, and the algorithm is incredible because it's like Google on drugs, right? Because it's taking what's on Google, whereas we're going to look at AI in a few years and we're going to think Google was a tricycle and AI is a Formula One race
Mhm.
car, right? Because it takes all of that data,
Well,
actually
it takes
makes
up.
it can make it usable.
Right. Well, and in some instances, there is another Rob Anspach out there, which, astounds me. But he's a wrestling coach. And so
Okay.
when you pull up the information, you say, "Oh, Rob's a marketer. He's this. He's an author. He's a speaker. He's a wrestling coach. What? No.
Yeah.
And so
It's
it's
still yeah, I'm sure that's gonna make mistakes like that because it's just pulling on your name.
mhm,
And but I think it's gonna probably just even become more intelligent over time. But I think what shocks me the most is just how um, the conversation level is a human level conversation. You
mhm,
wouldn't, so if you think about all the jobs out there that rely on humans talking to humans, the level of language and complexity and sophistication and nuance that happens when you're talking to an AI, um, it could replace customer support. It could replace therapists
yeah.
potentially, right? Which is scary because a therapist needs nuance and context, but the language use is very sophisticated. A lot of times I would not know. And we're both masters of language here. I think you and I, as agency owners, we understand the power of language and nuance and context, and the level of conversation you can have with an AI is shockingly good
Well,
to
what
the
I do a
point
lot of
where
times is if I'm creating an article for a client, I'll feed into it a video that that client might have made. Doesn't matter if
yeah,
it's 10 years ago or just current. And I'll say, especially ChatGPT, I'll say, okay, take the language that is, this character, model his personality from the video, and put it into this article. And when you
yeah,
do that, you're getting a whole different personality now into the article. It's no longer written by, an a machine.
yeah,
It's geared to the personality that is that. And so when you're reading it, you're like, wow, okay, that sounds just like that guy. So,
yeah,
if you don't have time to write the article yourself, or you don't understand how to model, a personality based, write up,
writing style.
then just feed it some videos and let it learn, and then say,
Yeah.
okay, I need this article written in the personality, and it spits it out, and it's
Well,
beautiful.
yeah,
It's
and
not
it's
always
funny you say
correct, but
that.
it's
I
right.
have a friend she's a food writer, right? So she's kind of like almost like a Canadian Martha Stewart. So
Wow.
she's built her career as like writing restaurant reviews, writing food reviews. She has like a food magazine. So she recently posted an article written by AI that she said, write a restaurant review of this restaurant based on the style of Sarah Waxman,
Hmm.
right? And it came out with an article that really could have been, she was shocked that she's like, this isn't exactly how I'd write it, but it's pretty damn close, right? So that's the true power, is that it's able to kind of capture the tone,
Hmm.
and a little taste of the personality when it creates the content now. And I even did a few just for fun experiments, and I was like, write this blog post in the speaking style of Donald Trump, right? And like write this blog, and it was like, this is the best blog post you're ever going to see. We're going to make this blog post better than all the other blog posts suck and they're losers. So it was actually kind of hilarious. So
Yeah,
you can
I
do some,
last year, as ChatGPT came out, I guess the expanded. There was a couple different versions, and I think I joined when it was at 3.5 or 4 point. I forget what it was, but I did a whole bunch of papers like that, and I had it do Biden. I had it do a bunch of marketers like Dan Kennedy, and most of them were spot on because
right.
those gurus, those political figures are already out there. They're already being
Yes.
modeled. So it's easy
Yeah.
to create that stuff. But when you're new to the internet and you don't have a footprint, what do you do?
Yeah.
So, sometimes, like I said, the easiest is make a couple videos, and they could be awful. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You need something to give the AI to model after you.
Or if you're lazy, you can model it after someone already out there that whose style you like. And
Mhm.
then I hate saying that because it cuts out the creativity. Um, but again, most businesses who come to work with agencies, they're coming to us for the creativity.
Yeah.
So the downside for agencies is our creative contribution can potentially go down, but that's where we kind of come to what's a good use of AI, what should it be used for by agencies, what should it not be used for, and how can it make our work better, smarter, more efficient, um, but not, like I still think there's definitely essential parts of what we do that cannot be replaced by AI,
Yeah,
right?
and the one of the pros, I think, especially for us in what we do, I was analyzing a website the other day, and there was either a plugin missing or some code missing, and I went into ChatGPT and I said, analyze this website and give me the code that's missing, and it
Yeah,
did, and there was a whole string of coding, and I plugged it back into the website. Now it works perfectly. So those are
amazing.
tools that will help us save time,
Yes,
and they can analyze a lot of the deficiencies in websites or social media or whatever. But it still relies on a human to put in that
exactly.
parameters, and so it's not a be all thing that, yeah, this is going to save my business. If you don't know how to use
Exactly.
it, it's not going to save anything.
Yeah. And you still need to have that person at the strategic level who can diagnose the problem in the business, recommend a solution, and maybe they use AI to help formulate the solution. But I'll give you an example. So we recently started working with one company. They have an e-commerce shop, and they're growing really fast. They've probably got a customer base of about 50,000 right now,
Uh-huh.
and they've got repeat customers, right? So they want to send out regular email communications to their clients. So things like abandoned cart emails, things like they have a subscription program. So, things. So I'll give them a plug. Actually, they're called Smoke In. They're an online cigar store. So things like they have a cigar of the month club. Um, Things like just even rudimentary payment notifications. Hey, your credit card's expiring. So they want to have email automation set up so that they can send personalized promotions to their customer base, based on certain characteristics. Oh, this person has regularly purchased this brand of cigar. They're going to notify him of a special, or they're going to give him or her, I should say, a coupon. Um, so they want to have all these automated email notifications set up. And what we recommended to them is they really need an API set up between their shopping cart platform and MailChimp. So, and the way we kind of used AI in this project is, like basically as the agency owner, and just because I have experience, we're a MailChimp partner, we've worked on a lot of APIs with MailChimp. I was able to suggest to them like, hey, you need an API
Mhm.
between these two platforms, and here's the kind of email automations you should have triggered, into MailChimp based on your customer data. So I had to know that based on experience, based on working with MailChimp, based on doing email marketing for like 20 years. Um, but then the next step is like, how did AI help me with this project? So basically, because I'm just going to show you my screen if you allow me to
Yeah.
share,
Mhm.
but this is kind of how AI can put your workload on steroids, and like not workload, but make your workload a lot easier and more automated. So, for
Mhm.
example, you can put in a prompt. create a scope of work for an API between MailChimp and a client's e-commerce system. And it will spit out a complete export of like what a scope of work for this project can look like.
Wow.
Now, this doesn't mean, and including timelines, now this doesn't mean that you shouldn't review this, but
Yeah.
it's a starting point, right? So according to the AI project plan here, this this API project should be completed in 6 weeks. Now, if I was using AI wrong, I would just copy and paste this into a project plan for the client. That's where I think the wrong use of AI comes in. But we basically use this as a starting point for a conversation. Because
Hmm.
when we had the conversation and kind of the project discovery, we discovered the real automations that they need and the real email campaigns that they're going to need out of that API. And then we adjusted the plan. But the nice thing is, the AI I'm using, Meta AI, gave me a really sound structure for having that conversation. So that's kind of a great use of AI, is making your communication smoother, making it more efficient, giving you a structure.
Hmm.
Um, and also, if you're like me, that your brain sometimes works faster than you can type, it really does help. So you can have, one of the things I struggle with is I'll have like 4 meetings a day sometimes, and I'll take notes on all those meetings. And I know that after each meeting, I like to follow up. I like to recap, what we talked about. And that, there's an AI assistant now in Zoom. I think we were talking about the AI assistant, but I'm not a huge fan of it. It will give you a summary. Um, but what I like to do with Meta AI is I use talk to text as well. So sometimes after a meeting, I'll say something like, "Hey, please get back to this client where we talked about the API to e-commerce proposal we're going to do, and we want to include XYZ. Or please get back to this client. We talked about doing an ad campaign for him where we're going to drive traffic to his landing page. And by the way, we also have to fix up 3 things on his landing page, such as ABC. Send him an email to summarize all that." And it will it'll write the perfect email, probably better than I could have come up with myself. Um, and where headings, bolded, formatting, numbered, right? So in the past, before AI, probably would have taken me an hour and a half, just to formulate that in my head. How do I communicate that? Because I had it all rough in my
Hmm.
head. And but to be able to just write that out in a clear, concise way, now I can have the AI kind of write that email for me. I've even had situations where I have to get back to a client on a billing issue, and it's something complicated, like they partially paid for the project, but I need to now prorate them for the rest because of some issue. And basically just told the AI, please write an email to this client where we have to prorate part of their billing and yada yada yada. And we missed sending them the invoice on time. And like, obviously when I'm giving the prompt, I'm like, the subtext of that is, I don't want to write this email because I don't want to sound like an idiot because maybe there's an issue that we could have done better, right? But anyway, it will write me the most professional email to exactly address that situation. And that's where I think the beauty of these tools is creating concise professional communications. And I'm like I am a native English speaker, maybe not from childhood, but I think that's where, especially people who are new Canadians, new Americans, non-native English speakers, can use it to communicate more clearly, and give them kind of an advantage in the workforce, right? So it's also, and to be honest, it's one thing that does scare me as a marketer is I've always been a good copywriter. I know you're a writer too. So how sophisticated it is in terms of coming up with copy.
You know,
You
I
can get
started out, as a copywriter. You know, back in 1995, I had a carpet cleaning business, and in 1998, I started learning copy. And so
yeah,
I would write these 6-page letters about carpet cleaning and why my clients needed to contact us. And that particular skill led me to teaching other carpet cleaners how to market. And so as we expanded out, Anspach Media started in 2001. So now we're 23 years old. And, I sold the cleaning business a long time ago. But if it wasn't for that skill of learning copy, I wouldn't be where I am today. Now,
Right.
do I utilize copywriting as much as I should? No. I'm writing books now. I'm creating all these other pieces for clients, and honestly, I think social media has created a society of more people suffering from ADHD. I think we need
Yes.
to go back to the long form copy. I think people need to understand this is how marketing really works, not this
Yeah.
short attention span crap that I'm all for, as I age, I'm all for legacy. And I look at products and things that we're doing, like books, podcasts, and even videos as macro content, stuff that's going to stick around longer, that's going
Yeah.
to promote that legacy. Whereas social media is micro content that a second after you read it, it's gone out of your memory. And
Yeah.
so I don't want to really focus on social media anymore. Yeah, it's a necessary evil that we have to utilize in our marketing, but I'd rather focus on the bigger stuff. And it just seems like everybody and their mom right now is using AI to not only post, but to answer the posts. Well,
Yes.
social media is about being social, not about having the AI just answer everything for you.
Well, I think you kind of hit on something because, Rob, having known you for a long time, I actually think your brand is authenticity, right? Like, I don't even have to, see your name on a post to know it was written by you, right?
Mhm.
And it's because, you've developed your kind of your brand persona, which is really your personality, and that you're a bit of a rebel, you got a bit of an edge, but you're also a smart marketer, and that you're an expert in getting people known for whatever expertise they are through the authorship program, through your agency and everything. So I think, one thing that AI cannot replicate, at least not truly, is human authenticity.
Mhm.
And that is going to become, I think, the premium in the future because pretty soon, as good as these AIs are, what's really going to stand out and shine is new ideas, authenticity, and brands which can still come up with new ideas, which still can come up with a human authentic voice for their company. Um, they are going to stand out
Well,
among
I
kind of
think
the generic some of the generic writing that comes out of AI.
you hit it on the head. I think authenticity is going to be the new currency.
Absolutely.
It's not about human versus AI. It's about authenticity and what sounds real. And for years, we've always said, with social media, know, like, and trust. But since COVID, I've added that fourth element, which is feel safe. People need to
Mhm.
feel safe with you. Do they feel safe with the AI? No.
Yeah.
They have to have that authentic, genuine, feel safe, warm and fuzzy feeling with you. And if they
Yeah.
don't, no amount of AI is going to save you.
Yeah. And that's where, if you look at, like, some of the, like, celebrities, influencers and so forth, that even people on YouTube that are gaining a big following, it's sometimes it's a guy with a, recording a video on his iPhone, and giving you the straight goods and
Right,
swearing along the way versus someone who has an overproduced corporate video,
right.
right? So I think,
Look at Ryan Reynolds, and he's Canadian. He's rough, he's raw, he's honest, he's yeah, he curses, he's sarcastic. You know, but people have become, enamored
Immune.
enamored
Yeah.
by what he's doing. They love his Wrexham stuff. They love his Deadpool stuff. It's just, and he's got, a beautiful wife and kids, and people are like, wow, but you don't always see him working. You always see him, you know, just snippets here and snippets there. But the thing is, if you look back 20 years, nobody really knew who he was. But it's the same
Yeah.
personality as it is now. It's just people started to feel, hey, it's genuine, it's authentic, and he's not really a Hollywood snob. He's just this a guy, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I think that like the kind of what it boils down to is good uses of AI is when you want polished professional communication, when you want structured communication or structured information like a project plan, a project timeline, scope of work, anything that you need to produce that's like structured content, a structured work plan, and sometimes also copywriting.
Hmm.
Like you know, I for example, we have a client who has a mascot, right? So we're kind of, just coming up with headlines that are like, you know, related to their brand. You know, I know I used AI as thought starters, right? So, but being able to like don't use that content without filtering it through an experienced human
Hmm.
who's worked in the industry, right? So I think what a lot of companies are starting to do is they'll take someone out of school, put them in charge of their marketing, and say, "Hey, here's ChatGPT. Come up with a marketing strategy for me." And
Hmm.
yes, I can say on Meta AI, and I can be like, come up with a marketing plan for a SaaS cybersecurity company, and it'll come up with a marketing plan with all the bullet points. You can put it into a PowerPoint, but um, having worked 20 years and actually implemented those plans, that's where you need the filter. You need someone to say, is that actually a sound strategy that you should implement? Because really it's an export from an algorithm, right? Maybe based on like 100,000 other strategies that it's pulling that content out of. But whether something's really going to work, someone has to sit down with a client, understand their story, understand their challenges, and then maybe use that as a brainstorm to really come up with a strategy that's
I
going to be
remember,
customized
I remember
for that actual client.
um, back in 2001, I think I got a client from an online service. It was something like Indeed, but it was a different name. And they reached out and they said, "Can you design a business plan for us?" I'm like, yeah, sure. And I charged them $3,000 for it. And now you go on to ChatGPT and you say create a business plan, spits it out
Yeah.
in 2 minutes or less, and it costs you $0. And I'm thinking, this is great. It saves my clients so much money. They don't have. But then I read it and I'm like,
But is that a
"Mhm,
business plan, right? That's the thing.
it's
It's going to be some generic crap, right?
sure."
It's versus someone who actually thought through a business plan versus someone who, because a real business plan and a real marketing strategy, you should be looking at three or four of their competitors. You should be looking at how their competitors are advertising. You should be looking at industry statistics and consumer trends. So that should formulate, yes, the chat GBT can come up with a beautiful format and structure for your marketing plan or your business plan, but there needs to be some critical thinking and analysis for when you're actually going to put dollars behind it and commit an investment, right? Just like I think what I compare it to is, let's say you're a stockbroker or you're an investment portfolio manager, right? And you're managing, millions of dollars for some client. So are you going to decide whether to invest in a certain company just based on, an export of a market report? So a market report can tell you, their stock is up, here's what their balance sheet looks like, here's what their sales have looked like. So, you know, but in order to actually make a decision whether you're going to invest or not, you should be looking at the history of the company. You should be looking at the management. You should be comparing it with other companies of that size. You should be looking at consumer trends. So just like a smart investment manager, portfolio manager, they need to look at the big picture. They're not just looking at an export of market reports, right? Maybe a junior investor would just look at the market reports and then let the computer make a decision. But I think a smarter investor and a smart marketer would look holistically
Mhm.
and come up with a customized plan.
Well, this morning I just read that Meta AI wants to dominate the AI market, and they're putting a lot of their products out there for free. Whereas ChatGPT, if you have the 4.0 or the 40, I forget what it's called, but it's $20 a month. And
Yeah,
$20 a month is not a big deal if you're going to be using it all the time. But you know, Meta is taking all the information that people are sharing on their platform and creating this huge database of that the AI can learn from. And
yeah,
I know before we got, we went live, you were going to show, what Meta was, what the AI can do. And if
yeah,
I still have time, I'd love to go
yeah,
over that
absolutely.
because I don't like Meta AI. For me, it's
Really?
I guess it's just my dislike of Facebook. Even though I use Facebook all the time, I just find LinkedIn is better or more conducive to me finding the right types of clients.
So, yeah, I'll give you an example. I'm going to be like, I'll try to keep it to the professional examples, but I do actually even
No
use
professional.
Meta. I use
We're
Meta
not
AI for
professional.
it's really embarrassing, but I use Meta AI just for sometimes for some personal things. I'll give you some examples. Okay, so sometimes I'll get a text from a friend
Hmm.
and I'll be like, because I'm an overthinker, I'm like, what do they really mean by that? And I'll literally copy and paste it into Meta AI and I'll be like, can you please analyze this text for me? And it'll be like, this person is being friendly, but they're setting boundaries about, when they want to meet you. And so it's very interesting because of the language analysis tools, and this can totally be applied even like customer service or client communications, you know. I would even challenge anyone listening, take like if you've got clients, take a couple of their last few emails, feed it into Meta AI and see how it analyzes, like, and see what it says. I'll even just give you an example. I'm going to
Please
take
don't
one
do
of
that to
your,
mine. You'll think I was,
can I do it?
yeah.
I'm gonna take an email from you and see what it. But most of our messages were on Facebook, so I don't know if I could do that. Um,
People
but
need
here,
therapy if they do that for me.
it'll be.
Because I
Okay,
think
I'm gonna
faster
take
than I
one of
type, so
your
half the
things from
times I
your
miss
news.
words.
Oh, I know. It's no, it's hilarious. I'm gonna just show you an example though. Okay, so here's a way to use it. You can use this for business and personal. I'll just do a business example now. But this is like an excerpt from one of your emails. This is just from your newsletter. Or I'll just say here, wait, analyze this paragraph for tone. Um,
Why is a site
so,
though?
so it's telling me the tone of this paragraph is yada, yada, yada. It's expert. So this is really interesting as a marketer, right? Because
Hmm.
if you're trying to hit a kind of a tone, um,
I
this
like the last one. Expert. Says the author,
Yeah.
Rob
The
Anspach,
author
presents
presents
himself
himself as
as a
knowledgeable in the
novelist.
field of podcasting, which is a good thing, right? You're friendly and approachable, you're concise, right? And this is just obviously pasting in a
Mhm.
very professional writing example. And then without copying over the client's name, I'll just copy over, um, analyze this email from my client. So, so again, it's telling me the tone is friendly, but they're also concerned and that they have an issue, right?
Mhm.
So this kind of tells me a lot of things. And obviously, when I read this, I didn't need AI to tell me they have a concern and they're stressed about an IT issue, right? But
Mhm.
it's just interesting to see if you're, you know, when like in analyzing communications, we're out there, we're creating communications, but it helps to understand it. Now, if I was really lazy,
Well, and I think this really helps because, you and I both have clients that are outside of our geographic location. So their tone, their
matter.
inflections, even their voice is going to be different. So what we
Yeah,
may interpret, the AI is going to say, "Hey, no, 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 no. This is
yeah,
how it is." And it might give
yeah.
you a better understanding of where they're coming from.
Yeah, and one thing I find is this is obviously a fairly like IT straightforward issue, but sometimes you'll get an angry email from someone.
Mhm.
Sometimes you'll get someone who's very upset about something. And I think your first instinct might be to reply emotionally and reply be like, well, what do you mean you can't have this? You know, you want this price or that price? Or what do you mean you want to, you expect us to do X, Y, Z? So this actually, helps you neutralize your language and address things in a more
Well,
business-like way
and
right
and
now.
that works for most people. For me, I don't want it neutralized because they'll end up going in my books.
True, true. But it depends on the situation, right? So that's why it goes back to good versus bad use of AI,
Mhm.
professional communications, structured communications, where there's situations where you do want to keep it neutral and businesslike. So, and then, for example, I might have team members who are on this receiving end of this email about this IT issue, but maybe English isn't their first language, or do I want them to spend time writing a 2-hour response to this client, or do I want them to spend time actually fixing whatever he said was wrong with his website? So that's where I can say, give the AI a prompt right back to the client to address his concerns, right?
Mhm.
And it can give them a structure to do so, right? I
Now, what you'll
apologize for the
find though is
confusion.
in these prompts, it may not always be geared to, you know, Canada, or
The
US.
exact situation, the
So you
exact
might
right.
have some words that you're going to have to go in, especially Canada, because you guys use the Queen's English and we just bastardize everything. So, um,
Yeah.
you're going to have to add some U's and some other things to words.
But you know what? If I read this response, like I didn't give it, all I said was right back to the client to address the
Hmm.
concerns. It pretty much wrote it, it's 95%
Yeah.
correct. The way it wrote it said, regarding this problem, I apologize. It's apologizing for the problem. It's reiterating the problem so the client is aware we know the problem. So it analyzed this original email to the point where all I gave it was this, right? But it got the gist of what the problem is that the client reported, and it gave a response to specifically address that, to talk about what steps we're taking to fix the issue.
Hmm.
So if you had an employee who responded like this, I think you'd be pretty happy with this employee, right? So that's where I'm saying it's this is a little scary, but it's also great because it's making us more efficient because we're
Right.
not spending 2 hours right. Like the way I look at it is every interaction with my clients is two parts. Part one is the actual problem we're trying to solve. Maybe we're trying to solve a website issue. Maybe we're trying to solve a marketing issue where they need more leads. Maybe they're trying to ask us for a password, but there's actually solving the problem, and then there's the way you're communicating with them about the actual problem. And both have to work. You have to actually solve the real problem and do the work. So you might need a developer to fix the technical thing, but the communication has to be right,
Right.
right? And
And
I know
please,
you,
for those that are listening, when you copy and paste these out, remove the brackets that say
yeah, yeah.
client
Oh,
or
for
your
sure,
name, because I have
for
come
sure.
across so many of these, and it's just like, dear client, I have a
Yeah,
name. What is it?
I
Use it.
know.
And
Yes.
they don't.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And I've honestly screwed up a little bit with AI because sometimes the AI is really responding to the prompts you feed it, right?
Right.
So the more detailed your prompt and the more correct your prompt, the better that letter is going to be, right? So I did my rough response to another client this morning where I was like, he was like the fourth meeting I had yesterday, and I knew I needed to write back to him to kind of summarize everything we talked about. So I'm talking to my Meta AI, and I'm like, write an email to this guy, to this client. He's like, he's got this software, and the target market for this software is blah blah blah, and the other target market is blah blah blah. We're going to be doing an ad campaign. We're going to be fixing up his landing page. So it wrote a really really professional email, but it messed up who the target market was, and it could have been my whatever I fed into it was not clear enough. But when I because I was in a rush, I copied and pasted this email, and the guy got back to me and he's like, well, actually, thank you for your response, but actually, our target market is this, right?
Mhm.
I think you probably meant this. And I'm just like, ugh, right? Because I'm like, I knew I should have read it more carefully. But so that's why I'm saying don't copy and paste. Because obviously don't copy and paste your name and your client, but read it over carefully. Make sure it actually makes sense. Um, because this can put your communication on steroids. It can make your professional communications flow much faster and easier. Um, but it can also make mistakes. You should also always have a human screening of
Mhm.
whatever comes out of these things, right? So that's one example. It's just client communications, understanding the tone of communications. I even put another example here, I think of my create a scope of work for an API, and it will like completely explain the API. I can even do create an estimate for a 30-page website redesign for an accountant, including all the main pages they will need, right? So it's creating an estimate. And again, this is beautiful, right? In the past, I would have had to spend, a week
Mhm.
researching all the different sections the person would have on this website. So that's kind of like the power and the scary side of AI is because it's drawing on the typical accounting website pages that are out there and listing them all here.
Mhm.
Um, it's drawing on, typical timelines for development and content creation. And it even gives me a price breakdown. So again, don't copy and paste this as your actual estimate, but it will probably save you like 10 hours to coming up with that. Now, what a smart marketer would do or a smart service provider would do with this information is use it again as a template and as a basis for adding a layer of critical thinking. So
Mhm.
if you're doing this professionally and you really are going to quote on this accounting firm's website, I hope you're looking at 5 other accounting firm websites so that you're not just giving the client a pages list, but you're giving them some strategy for
Mhm.
how their accounting firm website is going to achieve their business goals of getting more accounting clients, right?
Right.
Or helping people with their tax planning or providing a tax calculator or et cetera, or having some SEO keywords that are going to attract the top searched um, keywords out there. So if so you want to be giving advice that's going to make you stand out from the AI, right? So you want to be telling the clients, hey, did you know that the top high volume keywords for accounting topics are, IRS uh, violations, or owing money to the IRS, owing money to the CRA if you're in Canada, filing late taxes, so you would be looking up like the keywords that are being searched for relating to tax and accounting, and building your strategy around here. And yeah, you can use this as your template, but you certainly shouldn't use this as your business strategy, if
Right.
that makes sense, or
Right.
your SEO
And I
strategy.
think, I had this client I haven't serviced for a long time reach out, and they said, "Well, we like this website. Can you model this website to our existing site?" I said, "Well, they don't have blogs. They don't have a lot of content like you do." And they're like, "Yeah, but we like their wording." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we can change the wording. You mean on your site?"
Mhm.
And but they couldn't afford me. But one of the things that I see a lot is people looking at other people's websites and say, "Well, I like that. The grass is greener over there. Let's take
Yeah,
their content." Well, if you're going to copy and paste someone else's content, you might want to consider putting it through an AI and having the AI rewrite it so you don't get slapped for plagiarism.
right. Yeah, absolutely. So and AI is honestly, it's a good tool to use for creating content, but again, put it through a human layer, right?
Mhm.
So that your site doesn't end up sounding like 10 other websites, right? Who are also going to start using AI to write their content.
Right.
Um, unfortunately, Google rewards us for content, for relevant content. And sometimes, like, until Google changes its algorithms and stops rewarding people for having keyword rich content or relevant keyword content, um, AI is going to be relevant for that. So just even for use for SEO purposes, be sometimes you need to create those pages that are really written for Google versus for human visitors, right? So
Mhm.
a lot of clients will have location pages for their business simply so they show up for searches for a different city. So for example, I'm looking for, divorce lawyer Toronto, divorce lawyer Chicago, divorce lawyer New York, right? If I have pages specifically to highlight that I serve that area, and I have a specific location page for each of those cities, I'm going to statistically like show up higher on Google if someone's searching for a local divorce lawyer in their city and they're using the city name. So the easiest use of AI for SEO is creating content for those kind of pages,
Mhm.
right? Um, and
And sharing out your blog articles. And I know a lot of people don't like to write blog articles, and this is where the AI comes in.
yeah,
You can crank out a whole bunch of blog articles based on certain keywords, based on your personality, based on what you want to share with people. Get them on your website and go back to SEO. And Google loves the user, exchange. They like that when people comment on your blog articles. But they people just don't want to do blog articles because it takes too much time. Get the AI to write
yeah,
it.
yeah.
You know?
So yeah, but at the same time, if you want, like, you got to think if you want your blog to actually be read by Google, by the algorithm, or do you want it to actually be readable for humans,
Mhm.
right? That's where the authenticity comes in. So I think the best is a combination of both. Maybe you use the AI to generate kind of to brainstorm the initial article, but
Mhm.
then you review it, you add in um, little stories or scenarios or examples to make it a little more, give it a little more character, right?
Mhm.
So that's where we said need that human intelligence factor. right? Um, but yeah, it's definitely applicable for SEO, for writing blog posts. Um, but it's not at the point where I think it can replace human authenticity and originality. And there's always going to be a place for that. At least I
Mm.
hope so. So
All right, we can stop sharing and
sure.
so,
So
how do people find you? I know you're up in Toronto and people can
I
walk up there if they wish.
we actually work globally. We have a lot of US clients. We're actually working a lot with US credit unions right now. So napkinmarketing.com. You can email me, Adina at napkinmarketing.com. And yeah, I'm happy to help. We have a 30-minute consultation available. So feel free to book a time with me and we can
And
help your
I
business.
like how you've kind of niched, your services. You do a lot of banking, a lot of people, concerned with their taxes, and I've kind of gravitated towards the lawyer and medical fields, and for me, it's always been easier when I focus on one type of clientele, you know,
Yeah.
and if I have to service all kinds of, sometimes it's like, uh, I don't want to switch from helping a plumber or electrician and then quickly jumping into helping a lawyer. My brain doesn't
Yeah,
work like that
absolutely.
anymore.
Yeah, and I have lawyer clients as well. Love working with lawyers. There's I think it's a matter of supply and demand sometimes because there's a lot of agencies that are after lawyers.
Hmm.
And I think what's happened in the marketplace is a lot of lawyers are very jaded. You could be the best marketer in the world, but because so many other agencies are approaching them, there's a high level of skepticism and there's a lot of gatekeeping.
Hmm.
So, have you ever tried to call a lawyer? If you're going to be damn lucky if somebody actually picks up the phone
Yeah.
because you're going to go through voicemail, you're going to go through the secretary, you're going to go through, select one for yada yada yada, right?
Hmm.
So it's very hard to kind of get through to that group. But the lawyers that we have brought on board, I'm really confident because we're able to implement lead generation strategies that, we create their site as a big lead generator with several places on their website that they can convert new clients onto. So when we build a law firm website, we're not just building a pretty website, we're including ebooks about their law practice specialty that people can download. We're
Hmm.
including a booking calendar that people can book for a consultation with that law firm. We're including a contact form and an intake form that actually does kind of an online interview and light intake with the person who's visiting the website. So we fill that website with lead magnets because you should really be building a website. And the old fashioned way is, and still many law firms build their website as a glorified brochure,
Hmm.
whereas they can put in interactive tools in there. Even we have one law firm right now where we're going to be building a severance pay calculator. They're employment law firms, so they help people who have been laid off, right? So building in tools that people can interact with your site, download an ebook, fill out a form about their case, book a meeting with you is so much more effective than just having a static website that lists your practice areas, lists the bios of your lawyer, and by the way, please fill in this boring form to get in touch with us, right? So it's about making your website into a salesperson.
Well, and also it's about the experience that we give, to the visitor. So, it's like, I love to go to Disney World every year. So when I go there, it's the experience that I'm getting, which is completely different than the experience that I've received the last time.
Yeah.
So when someone comes to my website, when they meet me for the first time, when they see a video, I want them to understand that I'm not just shilling a product. I'm
Yeah.
creating an experience that they want to keep coming back for. And I
Yes.
think that a lot of entrepreneurs miss that point. They just want to, hey, here's my product. I want you to buy it. Why? What am I going to
Yeah.
get? Yeah, I'm going to spend $10,000 more on you than this guy, but what am I getting? So you have to
Exactly.
be
And
able.
I mean, you're you're gonna hate me because I'm like not the biggest Disney fan. Like I like I've taken my kids. We've gone to to Disney World. What's like the classic Disney World, the one for little kids,
Well,
the in
there's
Florida?
Disneyland in California. There's Disney World in Florida.
Yeah. So when we went to Disney World, I was so jazzed to go to Disney World with the kids, but when I'm walking around Disney World, it's like it's great, but like the rides and everything, it's like 30 years old, right? So, some of these are dated and it's an aging theme park, but it's not like the overall experience is about the way the staff treats you. It's about the parade. It's about the fireworks. It's about seeing Mickey Mouse and getting a hug from Mickey Mouse,
Mhm.
right? It's about the warm welcome that you receive and the way you're treated, which really is what creates the experience. It's not about the rides.
No,
The
no,
rides
and,
are
and
like,
and for me,
eh,
it's always about every time I go there, I learn something new. What can I implement into my marketing that is different? And Disney has become this master of marketing about customer experiences. So when I go there, it's like, okay, there's the iconic rides that I want to ride: the Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, Jungle
yeah,
Cruise, and then some of the new stuff. I won't get on Tron again because it left a big bruise on my chest. Uh, Guardians of the Galaxy is a great ride, but I felt like I needed to vomit after I got off the ride. So for me, it
so
was,
what keeps you coming back to Disney? Because you've
uh,
gone so many
yeah,
times.
I go, I mean, we started out going every 5 years in 2000 and up to about 2016, 27. Then we switched to every year. And I've been to both. I've been to California. For me, I've lowered my expectations so much. And I know that, when you go there for the first time, you want to do everything. But understand you can't do everything. There is so much to do that would take you a whole lifetime to do it. So when we go, we always try to do a different restaurant than we did before. So we're creating new experiences in the same theme, but it's always different. So, most
Yeah,
people don't know that there's a couple miniature golf courses in Disney. People are like, what? Never been there. And so, we try to go, to these different things, different restaurants, different, and so, it's not about just going to the parks because there's four parks. And if you went there day in and day out, you're going to be exhausted after the second day.
yeah,
So, we'll pick, two parks. And that's it. That's all we're gonna do. It doesn't. So we go. Last year we went to Magic Kingdom and Epcot. This year we went to Magic Kingdom, uh, Animal Kingdom, and then we did a night experience, which is an after hours thing at Hollywood Studios. So you pay this daily rate. You get there at 7 o'clock. You stay till 12. There's no lines. You get on
yeah.
all the rides. They give you free
Oh,
drinks,
it's
free
so worth it when
popcorn.
you
They
don't
give you
have to
free
wait in
ice cream.
line because the lines are insane. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
So,
when you can lower your expectations and just embrace what's going around you.
mm,
Disney parks feel like it's different every time you go, and every time I go, it feels like I'm a kid again. You know,
yeah,
I can smell the smells and ride the rides but I've been there so much that I know the shortcuts. And I'll say, okay, that ride says it's 60 minutes. In reality, it's probably 30. And okay, they're doing fireworks now, so my chance to go over and get on a ride.
yeah.
So
So obviously not every business can be Disney. Disney is Disney, but my takeaway is like what can a law firm
well,
learn
here
from
what
Walt
a law
Disney
firm
World,
can
right?
do, right? And this is what I've been teaching a lot of my lawyers for years is that people come to you because maybe they saw an ad. Okay, but they don't want to be treated as a client. They want to be treated as a friend. So
Build a human connection,
get off that
right?
pedestal you put yourself on,
Yeah,
come down to their level, speak in their language. Stop talking
yeah,
medical or legal terms.
totally.
Teach them, because they,
Put your photo on your website or
yeah.
put a video of yourself on your website. Like let them see, even if you're, and I love this client. I have a lawyer client. He's like in his 70s but he's so well adapting on technology. And one of the first things I told him when we started working with him is you need to put your photo of your on your website. His specialty is helping people with disability and estate planning. And I said, put a photo of yourself with your grandson, right?
Mhm.
Not just that professional photo of you in a suit. And he did. Now that photo's on his About Us page. I said, put a video of yourself explaining what you do in your practice and how you help people. And he put videos of himself, and he was hesitant at first because like everyone thinks like, oh, in order to make a video, I gotta look like Tom Cruise. I gotta look like Matthew McConaughey. No, you don't. People are attracted to authenticity. Like we said at the beginning of this interview, what's going to put you apart from an AI? Authenticity.
Mhm.
So they'd rather see your face with 2 days growth of beard and explaining what you do in your practice than just a static photo of you and the partners wearing your suits,
I
right?
get better response on my videos when I have growth on my face, when my
Yeah,
hair is messed up. Um,
exactly.
yeah, so it, I think people just want to see you, you know,
Mhm. And
not
that creates the
polished.
trust,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think that's maybe, I don't know, the Disney parallel is it when you watch someone on a video and they're a little rough around the edges, but it's creating that engagement, it's creating that trust factor than if you were just seeing some static photo.
Mhm.
And in Disney, when you're experiencing it, you're engaging every time in a different way at the park, but you're engaging on a human level, whether you're watching a parade, whether you're trying out a new restaurant, but it's all interactive, right? So you got to find ways to make your company or your website interact with people on a human level.
And one of the things that if you're going to make videos, you're going to make mistakes. So put those mistakes, those bloopers out there for people to see. Because not
Yeah.
only are you giving them the ability to laugh at you, but now they feel like, hey, this guy or gal, put their mistakes out there for us to see.
Yeah,
They're human,
exactly.
better
Exactly.
trustworthy. So
Exactly.
everybody who's listening, go over to Adina's website, napkinmarketing.com. And, is there any other place on socials you want them to find you at?
I'm on Instagram, but napkin marketing is probably a good place to start. Yeah, and happy to help. And anyone who needs to look like an expert out there and publish a book, Rob is the man to help you publish a book,
And we
publicize
don't
that book,
we
and
don't use
create a
AI for
following.
book publishing
No,
either. So,
they don't. That's why they have to charge a little more because they're not using AI to write the book. But the bottom line is you're going to end up looking like an expert with an authentically written book
yeah.
out there. And that's where you can attract a following because it's about building authority, right? Putting yourself out there as an authority, which I still want to follow up and have you write my book if I'm too lazy to do it. So
It's easy.
yeah,
But
yeah.
for everybody that's listening, what I want you to do is I want you to reach out to me or Adina and just give us your thoughts on, your experience using AI. Can we help you? Can we help you make it better? Because, Adina's in the field every single day. She's using this probably more than I am. Um, but, I've dabbled in it. I have a ChatGPT account. I haven't experimented with Meta or any of the other ones.
Save
Um,
your money, do Meta AI. It's much better. Yeah.
so, but, let us know how you make out with your AI because I think that if you have it trained right and you prompt it, give it the right prompts, you're going to experience I can't say you're going to experience more success, but you will experience, you know, I think more time away to 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 do what you want to do. You're not going to be a
Yeah.
slave to your company. I mean, years ago, I automated a lot of my social media posts. That saved me 20 hours a week. You know, utilize AI as the tool it's meant to be, a time saver.
Yeah.
So when you can do that, then you can start stepping away from your business and doing other things and not being a slave to your keyboard. So
Absolutely.
with that, I want to say thank you for everyone who joined us, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Adios.
Thank